let's go ahead and get it started. It's kind of just showing a few of the things we're going to be doing. Cooling tower repairs. We're going to start at the top with this. Then we're going to go down kind of the midstream with the chillers. And then we'll handle the duct work and air handler areas of the systems as well, and how we can help you repair and protect those from corrosion as well. So this slide's going to kind of go over a few problems, and we'll click through and see our Belzona solutions for these problems. So the obvious one is the wet conditions, whether it be immersed water running through the chillers or running in the cooling tower basins to overspray or CUI from condensation on pipes. We do have a solution, 100% solids epoxies. Gives you the corrosion resistance, and it also can handle immersion as well as a range of chemicals. One of the bigger things that sometimes happens with cooling water systems is water temperature upsets. Some of the lower quality paints that normally are installed on these can't really handle higher temperature spikes, and they begin to damage or fail at that point. For those situations, we do have coatings on the high end that can be immersed up to 320 degrees Fahrenheit. Most of our stuff is in the ambient range for cooling water, but if you have that kind of possibility in your system, we can handle that as well. So another issue that a lot of people have, or they have the cleaning agents or processed chemicals, such as, say, sulfuric acid to help neutralize out some of your water. Of course, that's very corrosive. To certain extents, we do have extensive chemical testing that can give you this resistance. We also have the case studies and real world proof to back everything up. Instead of just reading a piece of paper, we do have actual real world solutions that can help you here. And they're tailor-made coating options as well. You just let us know at the end of this presentation what you have, and we can find something for you. And of course, your microbiological growth, which will help you with pitting and corrosion. We are stable against microbiological bacteria. And then a big one a lot of people deal with, one way or another, is CUI, corrosion under installation. Does a lot of heavy external corrosion, especially on chiller shells or ductwork that's insulated. So we can provide barrier coatings that can help you isolate your substrate from those issues. We're going to jump back into the top here on cooling towers. But right here is just an example of a little package unit we've done, where if you start on the bottom left, you can see where we blast clean the surface. And right here is what we did. We sealed the substrates with a flexible membrane that we use for the seams. Your towers vibrate a lot and they do move and shake during service. So this flexible membrane helps hold that in, per se. And then, of course, the middle and far right, that's just showing you each code of our 5800 series Belzona. But also we do tailor-make based on your temperature and service that you want to see. Right here is a little smaller unit. A lot of times most people don't coat these because it's hard to get into. It's hard to really get people in. We can do this no matter how small, really. We can get something in there in order to prep the surface properly and coat it. This is another little before and after where we're doing grit blasting. Got it blast clean, and then we coated it with the flexible membrane and then our 5000 series 2-coat epoxy. And a lot of times you get leaks on the towers on the external seams where, especially in these summer months, it's almost impossible to shut down the cooling tower, take out all your fill, drain your towers just to get in there and repair these seams. Well, we have options where we can take our 3100 series or flexible membranes and basically seal the seams from the outside. And that's what we're doing here. It's a low prep scenario. A lot of times, really just some sandpaper and wire brushes will help with this certain series. But if you want us to go the full route of abrasive blasting, etc., we can do that as well. It just depends on what you want. This is just a little more recent project we've done in downtown Houston. It was a cooling water facility. Have about 16 cooling towers on this site. We normally do 2 to 3 a year with them. So in the beginning, we were just blasting and coating the bottom basin and about 2 feet up the walls. Now, the last couple of years, they've asked us, you do such a great job protecting our basins. Why don't you just go ahead and blast and spray the whole tower with that same material? So this is just showing you a few holes in the wall right here on your bottom left. A lot of corrosion on the top and obviously your corrosion on the bottom in your immersed areas. So what we've done, went in, blasted everything, used our Belzona paste grades, flexible membranes, and then on top of that, we've done our 2-coat system of our epoxy liner. And this is just showing you the walls and all the structural steel that we went in, blasted and coated. And after 3 years, they're still looking really well. This is just a few more pictures. This is showing the same areas that I took before pictures of. You can't even tell any corrosion was existing at that point. We get a lot of inquiries about larger concrete cooling towers with concrete columns and floors. We have Belzona 4000 series where you can rebuild the concrete. That's what it's made for. It also can hang vertically. Say you have these like vertical columns right here. We can apply up to about 3 to 4 inches vertically without any sagging. And then of course we'll go back with that immersion grade sealant. As you can see all the way on the far right, that's our 2-coat system back on top of that, the same one we would put on a metal cooling tower. Now we'll switch gears to the cooling water pumps that feed and supply cooling towers and extract from them. This right here is just one of our top ends of a water pump we've done that comes right off of a cooling tower. We used our Belzona paste to fill in all the damaged areas from where you can see the previous coating failed and caused a lot of corrosion and pitting. Then we put a very fluid efficient coating inside of it that helped reduce amp draw on your motor, also helps with your water efficiency in your pump. And then of course we did the impeller as well. Same scenario. You see some coating failure causing a little bit of corrosion and pitting. This is the same thing with that paste grade we used to fill in lost metal. And then our hydrophobic lining that increased our pump efficiency and decreased our amp draw. Now, of course, everybody deals with live leaks from time to time. This is just an example of where we took some live leak sealing materials, where in a few hours, we were able to stop this live, put a composite wrap on it with our Belzona pastes. And about 4 years ago, now it's still looking just fine. They haven't even replaced it. It's holding up just fine. And this is just one of our many things we can help you with. It doesn't have to be planned work. It can be an emergency style active leak stopping material if you need to go that route. Now, also, we do offer ASME compliant solutions. This is our Belzona Super Wrap 2. This is a large cooling water line coming off of a cooling tower. You can see we wrapped over the entire flange and gave it a designed wrap that's compliant to ASME specs. Alex, our in-house engineer, is able to, based on what you can give us, design a compliant repair solution for Belzona Super Wrap 2 to give you up to 20 years of design life. Another thing a lot of people neglect on these cooling towers are the fan blades. Now, this is just a little animation here showing your cooling tower fan blades moving. And from use, you can see the erosion that is caused from just gliding through the wind, the mist. There might be some dust in there. I mean, I've even seen where rocks can strike it possibly. And that really deteriorates the edges of your fan blades. So we come in, we sand the fan blades down and use our Belzona paste or our resins with fiberglass reinforcements to fix those leading edges. And then we can also put a ceramic coating around the entire blade. Used to, we would do the leading edge only, but we've kind of moved to, based off of clients' wishes, really just coating the entire blade with a ceramic lining to give it the full protection. And that's our top coat of a UV resistant product, because we all know with it sitting on top of the cooling tower, UV rays in the sun are just going to attack it 24/7. This is a recent project we've done with about 12, 14-foot long blades. So as you can see from these pictures, this is the damage. And it really wasn't just the leading edge on these blades. It was almost everywhere on these blades. You were seeing a lot of stress cracks from just being used over time. And you can just see how bad the damage can be. So we went in, we used our paste grades and our resins to repair these cracks, especially the ones on the leading edge. And we gave it one coat of our ceramic filled lining to the entire blade. That's what you can see here. And then for a final top coat, we gave it our UV resistant coating to help it from UV attack while it's spinning in the sun. and we'll go on down the stream to the chillers that everybody uses. So these chillers are typically made with a lot of corrosion allowance on the tube sheets, but it finally gets to that point where you either have to replace it, which could cost an extreme amount of money, or you can use us to come in. We can rebuild that metal loss and give you an erosion resistant ceramic coating on that. So this is just a little animation showing there's your allowed corrosion. Now it's getting a little too far past the allowance. That's when especially your roller expanded tubes, that's when they start to leak between the tubes and tube sheets, giving you some efficiency loss and can also be a little dangerous. So we can come in, blast these, fill these back in flush with a paste, and then put a good 2-coat system of our ceramic epoxy. We have several different options for this ceramic epoxy. If you have certain parameters you want to stick with, get with us after this presentation. We can tailor make a coating solution for you based on our several different options. This is just a little before, during, and after. This is a chiller we've done in a plant, tube sheet. We corked it and blasted inside down to an SP10 profile. And what we do, we cork the tubes, 2 reasons. Cork them during blast to stop any damage from getting in the tubes and to stop any sediment or blast media, etc., from getting in the tubes. Then we recork and get them flush with newer corks. And that helps us for when we build up our paste grade. You can see in that third picture from your right, we'll use that as kind of our guide. And especially on your roller expanded tubes that stick out 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch, that's giving you even more Belzona material to erode away for you in place of your metal. So all the way on the right, you can see our completed application with our 2-coat system of our ceramic epoxy. That's after we pop the corks out and hone the tubes back for you. Looks better than new. Now, a lot of people have started to, instead of having us come in after the chiller's been in service for years, they let us come in at the factories when the chillers are being built, such as this, where before they even go in service, they've already got that Belzona protection. So this is just another brand new chiller we've done at a local facility in Conroe. This is where they manufacture them. Right after they get done with their process, we come in, blast, build up the corks, and we apply 2 coats of a Belzona ceramic epoxy on them. And like I said, this does save money in the long run because it's a lot less costly if we do it in the facility than if we have to do it in the downtown basement, etc. And it also saves you on the metal rebuild. So this is just kind of getting ahead of the curve on your corrosion. And of course, we do our channel covers, channel heads for our chillers. This is just another example. There's your corrosion. There it is after we blasted down to an SP10. And that's just 2 coats of our ceramic lining. Like I said, this is something we typically do when we do the tube sheets. It just gives you that all-around protection of all the internal wet areas of your tube sheets and your chillers. Now, one other thing people deal with a lot that a lot of people don't see until it gets a little too late sometimes is your CUI under the insulation of your chillers. This is an example right here of where they pulled back a little bit and they found a lot of heavy pitting almost through wall on their chiller shell from CUI. So this is an area where we couldn't really blast based on the customer's parameters. So as you can see on the bottom, we put a grind on it with a Dremel and a grinding rock. And this one we used a Belzona fast curing epoxy with a reinforcement. It basically gave it a little more structural integrity back to the pit fill. And then after that, we put some of our epoxy over that for even more CUI protection. And this was all done within 1 day. So it's a very fast, very quick repair. And we're going to keep going a little farther downstream to your air handler units. Now, of course, we can do your duct repairs, but we also do a lot of inquiries on your coils. A lot of people have asked us, hey, can we go ahead and coat these coils to help with corrosion protection before we even install them? Yes, that is a possibility. Your fan housings, we can coat those. We can repair those. Your main air handler seams, we can stop those from leaking in situ. You don't have to replace anything. We can do it on site. We also work on your shafts as well. That's going to be a few more slides down though. But for now, we're going to talk about mainly your ductwork and your insulation issues that you'll see. So, of course, here's an overview of your damage. You see some small areas around the general ductwork, a little bit under your insulation, and then a little bit over your joints. So we can come in, we can prep that either by power tools or abrasive blasting. A lot of times it's power tool prep when you're on ductwork that's thin walled or very thin to begin with, and you're in office areas, etc., where blasting really isn't feasible. So we come in and we apply either rapid repair materials. We have several very fast setting materials that say you get a hole in your ductwork and you can only be down for a couple of hours. We can get you up and running within that couple of hour window. We also do more general metal repairs. You know, if you find a large area that's not really an emergency, but you still want to take care of it, we have some other paste grades that still set up fairly quickly, but they also can give you a little more general metal repair. You have your joints. We do have flexible membranes and elastomeric membranes to seal joints, especially joints that would move or shake. And then, of course, we can encapsulate insulation using some of our flexible membranes. We also can coat the entire ductwork under your insulation to protect it from CUI to begin with before you even put your insulation over it to give you that barrier. This is just an example of the joints I was talking about with our elastomer membranes or our other flexible membranes. As you can see, joint cracks repaired with a Belzona elastomer on the bottom left. And then over the top, we went across the whole area with our single part series, which just kind of gives you a little more general protection. It's also very cost effective. And this is just a little case study on some insulation we've wrapped for ductwork, wrapped and coated. So top left, there's your beginning. You can see your degradations. You can see your all your damage that you're getting from just being out in the weather typically. So there's your Belzona series membrane applied over it. And this is it about 3 years later. It still looks perfect. So that's just another one of the things we can keep in the toolbox for you for your problems on your HVAC. Now this, having my machinist and millwright background, this is probably one of my favorite repairs. Let's say your air handler fan shaft, your bearing spins and fails, basically destroys your shaft in that area. Typically where your air handlers sit inside of your building or your units, it's very hard to get in there to replace or take anything apart really. So we have a solution using clamps and formers that are specially machined for your shaft OD. And we can use a Belzona paste grade to reform that and get you back up and running in about a day's time. Now, the formers typically, we can make them through a machine shop that partners with us. We can make them for you in 2 to 3 days typically. What I suggest and what a lot of people have started doing is they come to me and they say, look, here's the shaft ODs that we have on site. Can you make a few formers for me? That way I can keep them on the shelf just in case this happens. We don't have to wait 2 to 3 days for your shaft formers to be made. And that way that takes out a lot of your downtime, but it also helps you with your response time as well. You can have your own maintenance men trained to do this by us, or you can call us out and we can come do this for you. But either way, just having those clamps made and ready to go, it's a much easier and much faster way. So final slide we're going to talk about is just, and everybody deals with this as well, it's your leaking joints on your air handler, whether it be you're sealing your edges or your bases, just because these air handlers generally like to move and shake a lot, especially during service and vibrate. So this is that Belzona elastomeric series that takes really low prep. You don't have to blast this. You don't really have to grind this either. You can come in with some sandpaper, wire brush, and just degrease that area real well and put your reinforced system over these seams, and that'll stop your leaks. And once again, just with the general area these air handlers sit in, it's very hard to pull out full panels on these air handlers, even shut them down and replace these, which can take days at a time typically. So with this, you don't even have to shut down. We can come in and do this while the machine's still running. And that's going to conclude our presentation. If anybody has any questions, feel free to shoot them in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them on site.
Hey, Ethan, typically, if I got a tower base that's about 12 by 20, and we can't be down for more than 21 days consecutively. How long would that take with those dimensions?
If you're just doing the basin, typically 3 days. Going basin 2 feet up the walls. It also depends on how heavy your pitting is or how much rebuild we have to do. Obviously, if we have to do a lot of metal filling and a lot of patching or hole fixing, it might be an additional day. So you're looking at maybe 4 days tops for 12 by 20.
Thank you.
Let's see. Let me go through the chat here. What would the cost difference be between recoating fan blades and replacing with new? Sometimes we do deal with this question a lot. It's typically 20% cost of replacement if they're extremely damaged. Sometimes 30 to 40%, but most of the time it's about a 20% increase difference there. And then how long does it take to recoat a set of fan blades typically? John, it really depends on how many blades you send and how long they are. I've got some in here through the shop that are 4 feet long and there's only 6. We can get those back to you within a week. I've also had clients send me larger sets of blades where they're 14 feet long, 4 feet wide, and there's 12 of them. That's typically about a 2-week turnaround.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Let me double check, make sure I didn't miss any. All right, I don't see any additional questions. If anybody else has anything, feel free to shoot it out now. If not,